have been covering this all day as the neighborhood grapples with the threat of this collapse. I'm Shirley Chan. We had Dan Manarino here earlier. We also have our entire team of reporters here. You just heard from Henry Rossoff. We also have our Nicole Johnson and also James Ford. We have reporters fanned out in this area because this too is our neighborhood. This is home for us. This unstable building is located directly across. Okay, you've been listening to Layla Borzog. She's the Deputy Mayor of Housing and Planning for the City of New York. She spoke to us just within the past hour, giving us some really pertinent information, actually welcome news that we've all been waiting for, that the building has not shifted anymore. They've been monitoring it since the crews arrived on scene this morning, and they actually felt it was safe enough that they have sent in a 6-member team to go in there and go floor to floor, starting on the 21st floor, which is where they first noticed that 2 beams were buckling. There were also steel structures that were bent over. They've been able to not only go on the 21st floor, but go on every floor on top of that, and that's all a good sign that it's safe enough, at least safe enough for crews to go in to start stabilizing this structure. We're also now going to send things over to our James Ford, who is standing by. All right, we're going to try to get back to our Henry Rossoff. Henry is about 2 blocks north of me right now. Henry is closer to the Pfizer building and also to the Daily News building, which houses PIX11. Henry, what do you see from there? Has anything changed from the last time we checked in with you? Okay, Henry, thank you so much. You're also our political reporter. I know you've been in close contact with City Hall, giving us the very latest information. We appreciate your help, and we'll check back in with you shortly. Now, as Henry mentioned, there are multiple buildings that were evacuated, but also within this frozen zone, there are just hotels, there are residential buildings, there's also a school and also a daycare center. I'm going to bring in right now the owner of the Goddard School, and that's right here on 2nd Avenue between 40th and 41st Street. And your name is Rami Singh. Thank you so much. Children up to 5 years old. It's a lot of little ones.
Really small.
Yeah, we're happy you spoke with us, and we thank you so much for making the kids feel safe and the families picking them up and getting them back to their families. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for everything you do.
Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. All right, just one of the many people affected. He has a daycare center, 125 kids right here in this area. And just to kind of set the scene, as he mentioned, it was first thing this morning, 8 a.m. this morning, that the first reports of bricks falling off this building. The construction workers who have been doing work inside this building said that yesterday was business as usual. Everything was normal. They did their jobs yesterday. They went home. They came in today, 8 a.m. They noticed those 2 beams were buckling, and they knew immediately that it was a serious situation, and they evacuated. The head of the steam fitters union, someone we spoke with earlier today, who really had a troubling account of some of the work that was being done in there. He mentioned that they were very concerned about the non-union work that was being done in there. We did an interview with him early this morning. Take a listen.
I just think we're having
Okay. All right, you've been listening in right now. That was our Angela Barbara, who spoke earlier today to Cliff Johnson. He is head of the steam. He's a head of the steam fitters union. He's a rep for the steam fitters union, who gave us the workers account. That was an interview done earlier today. All right, for now, we're going to take a short break right now, and when we return on the other side of this break, we will continue our continuous coverage of this serious situation in Midtown Manhattan, the old Pfizer headquarters on the corner of 42nd Street and 2nd Avenue. It has been deemed structurally unsafe because of 2 buckling beams and several floors of instability, and the Department of Buildings is on site. They're working on it. Stay with us. We are back for more continuous coverage right after this break. Okay, it is 10 minutes before 5. We are continuing our coverage of the situation right here in the heart of Midtown East. The Pfizer building, the old Pfizer building on the corner of 42nd Street and 2nd Avenue, has been deemed structurally unsound. We have our crews and a team of reporters out here for you. We're going to check in right now with our Henry Rossoff, who is on the other side of where I am. He's closer to the building. Henry. All right, I'm told that we are still waiting to get Henry up and running. His live shot has some issues. We're doing this on the fly, everyone. This is the technical issues out here. We've been live out here because we were forced out of our building. We're right across the street from the Pfizer building. We're at 220 East 42nd Street, and at one point they evacuated us. So the entire PIX News team, we came right out here on the street, and we've been broadcasting out here live. You can see how it's been cordoned off. There are police barriers set up, metal barriers, have 2 blocks south of our building where we are at, and we've been broadcasting from out here, bringing you the very latest on what's going on. And we can report that there's some good news at least heading in the right direction, which is the Department of Buildings telling us just a short time ago that their drones have picked up that there's been no movement in the building in terms of any more shifting for the last couple of hours as the rain, you can see, starts to fall on us right out here. But yeah, the good news is that a couple hours now they've not seen any shifting of the building, and they deemed it safe enough that they were able to send in a team of about 6 people to go in there to start looking into what they can do to make it more structurally sound. We're going to check in right now with our James Ford, who is on the other side of me. And James, what can you tell us from where you are? What can you see? All right, James, thank you very much for your perspective. We appreciate your reporting. And James isn't out here, as have so many PIX11 crews. And as we approach the 5 o'clock hour, we're just going to reset the scene for you. We have been in continuous coverage of this breaking news, a very serious situation here in this area of Midtown East. We are at the corner of 40th Street and 2nd Avenue. This is because PIX11, our entire team, we were forced out of our building at the corner of 42nd Street and 2nd Avenue because the Pfizer headquarters, the old Pfizer headquarters right across the street from us, there are reports that it is unstable. The first calls coming in at 8 this morning for bricks falling off the building, and DOB and FDNY responded immediately. And what we learned has been very alarming. What we learned that 2 structures, 2 beams were unstable. We also learned that concrete was coming off the inside. We also saw pictures of steel that was bent over. And since then, this very busy stretch of 42nd Street has been locked down. At least 8 buildings have been evacuated, including multiple hotels, a school, residential, and commercial buildings evacuated. There are a lot of people have been affected. This is now going on for 9 hours, but the headline at this time right now, we just learned from the Department of Buildings a short time ago that the building has not shifted anymore. They were able to send in a team of 6 people, a team to go in to try to begin to figure out how to make this building structurally sound. I'm going to check in right now with one of our other reporters who is on the other side of us, and that's our Henry Rossoff. He's closer to the Pfizer building. And Henry, you've been there all day. What can you tell us as we are now in the 5 o'clock hour? Okay, Henry, thank you. And as Henry mentioned, we're in this for the long haul. This is probably going to be days, if not weeks. The investigation is only in the very, very early stages. But, you know, the silver lining in all this, a really positive sign, is that no injuries at this time. Every worker who was inside that building accounted for. There were no injuries also on the ground here. And that's another reason why the NYPD has been imploring people to stay out of this area if you don't have to be here. The mayor even going as far as thanking New Yorkers for their cooperation. The mayor recognizing that this has been a huge inconvenience to a lot of the people who live and work in this area. Let's check in right now with my colleague, Eileen LaPalmer. Eileen is just south of me, and she's got another perspective. Eileen, what can you tell us? Hey, Eileen, thank you. We will check back in with you shortly, so please stand by. And we are going to be continuing our coverage of this breaking news from the heart of Midtown Manhattan on the east side. Stay with us. We're back right after this.
The streaming revolution is here, and PIX11 is weekdays on the PIX11 Morning News.
And thank you so much for staying with us tonight for the PIX11 News at 5. We are in our continuous coverage, staying on top of this breaking news of an unstable building in Midtown Manhattan on the east side, right in the heart of 42nd Street, that busy corridor. Our PIX11 crews have been fanned out all over the area because we've been forced out of our building as well. We're right across the street from the unstable building. So we're broadcasting to you live from the street here on 2nd Avenue and 40th Street. Our crews have been fanned out all over this area. I'm going to bring in right now our Nicole Johnson, and Nicole has been staying on top of the street closures, and you have very important information because right now a lot of people may be heading home after work, trying to get home, even though their building's not evacuated, they may be affected because their building is in the so-called frozen zone.
Yeah,
what is the latest?
This is the frozen zone where we're standing, and just so that we're clear, this is a very serious situation, extremely dangerous according to the NYPD. They're still monitoring things, and that's why you see dozens and dozens of officers out here. So 40th to 45th Streets and from 1st to 3rd still closed to pedestrian traffic and to vehicular traffic, and that's the situation, and it should remain that way throughout the evening. So I know there have been other reports that they're opening up streets. Nothing is open at this time.
Stay out here, and as we've been mentioning, 42nd Street is a very busy corridor. It has been a crazy summer. There's been so much going on as well. And 42nd Street, when there is a World Cup match going on, that has been shut down. And thankfully today, there's not a World Cup match going on. But regardless, that's now been shut down. It's also affecting transit because that corridor has been shut down. Let me bring in our Greg Mocker. Greg, our transit reporter. And Greg, you know, there was some concern about the subways because there's a lot of lines running through this area, the vibration from the subway trains, but you're saying that that's not the case. And what have you learned as our transit expert?
Yeah, I'm sure that that's something that people thought of first because the trains are moving around there. But while that is something that will be monitored, the trains are running. They're deep enough. They're high up there. The strangest thing for me is to be standing here in 2nd Avenue because there should be M15 buses coming down here.
And quite a few of them at this hour.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock. We should be running down here. You could get down to the East Village, but instead the M15, both the Select and the Local on both 1st Avenue and 2nd Avenue are going to have detours. From 72nd really all the way down to the 30s on 2nd Avenue South. So it's running on Lexington, and I just ran over there, which is totally...
And continuing to follow this breaking news throughout the day. Our crews have been out here all day long, as we mentioned from Greg Mocker, telling us that the subways have not been affected. So take the subways if you need to get around this evening. But again, the M42, the M101, which runs along 3rd Avenue, and 102 and 103, and also the M15, which runs down 2nd Avenue, all rerouted. So please be aware of that if you rely on those modes of bus lines. We're going to check in right now with our Henry Rossoff. Henry, again, is right by the building that has been affected, the Pfizer building on the corner of 42nd Street and 2nd Avenue. Henry. Okay, Henry, thank you so much for your reporting. We will check back in with you shortly. As you can see, my colleague Dan Manarino rejoins me in covering this breaking news. Welcome back.
Yeah, great to be back with you, Shirley. And, you know, Henry kind of just alluded to what I have been working the last couple hours since I left you on the phone, trying to get some source information right now about when the evacuations are going to be lifted. It sounds like they have the building kind of stabilized under control. The question now is the evacuation order. And what I'm being told is that they hope that they have some kind of news for tonight, at least to tell residents where to go, according to my sources in the mayor's office. But they are working the phones really, really diligently to try to get some information out there. And they said as soon as they get information, they will let us know so that we can bring it to everybody back there as well.
Yeah, we're talking at least 8 buildings that have been evacuated. A lot of those people may be coming home to this mess and not knowing what to do next, where to stay next. We do know that some of the hotels, from Henry's reporting, we've learned that some of the hotels in the area that house guests, they are trying to find them rooms in other properties that they may own. So that's how they're dealing with that when it comes to the hotel guests. But even still, they had to leave with the clothes on their back. They likely have left a lot of their belongings in their rooms, but at least hopefully we'll have a plan for the residents who live in the area.
Yeah, you know, and we were here early on with the evacuations that were really orderly on getting everybody out and about and out of their apartments. But as I was just making my way back over to you to rejoin the coverage, I spoke to 2 ladies who seemed were trying to get past the barricades. And I said, you know, what are you trying to do? And they said, well, we live up there, and we went to work. So they were at work, and this is what I had kind of talked about earlier with you when we were on the air, is that people went to work and weren't sure what they were going to be coming home to, and the woman was like, I gotta get home, I have 2 dogs inside. And so she's now trying to navigate her way around. She went at 1st Avenue to try to get a little bit closer to her building, but that's the situation that we were dealing with. We kind of figured that was going to happen during rush hour, was that folks were going to come back home and try to figure out how to get inside their apartments and what the logistics were going to be on doing so.
Yeah, our Nicole Johnson has been staying on top of the police angle, and she's been keeping us abreast of the street closures, and she mentioned that. Nicole has been saying that if you live in the area, even if your building's not been evacuated, but your building is physically in this frozen zone, be prepared to show ID, be prepared to walk around, double back, whatever you need to do before you can physically get into your building.
Yeah, that's one thing. I don't know if, Nicole, if you want to join us for 1 second, because I was talking to one of my sources in the mayor's office who was...
The FDNY, they use it for fires. They'll send in a drone to assess, to just make sure the situation is safe before they send people in. The priority is to save lives and to make sure they don't put anyone at risk.
Yeah, and more importantly, just a couple hours ago, we finally got good news that things are heading in the right direction because of those same drones that earlier in the day was able to pick up that the building has shifted just a fraction of an inch. Also was able to pick up that in several hours nothing has moved, which means that things were moving in the right direction, which is at that point when we learned from the Department of Buildings and from the mayor's office that they were able to send in a team to go inside to try to further assess how we can go about stabilizing this building.
It's been a long day for a lot of folks, for the first responders, for the mayor's team, for everybody who's kind of been in this area and evacuated this area as well. And now the big question that kind of lingers over is, when is everyone going to be allowed back into their homes? And you're hearing now some people are getting a little frustrated that they're not allowed back through the frozen zone.
Yeah, that evacuation order is still in place, and we don't know when they'll lift that evacuation order, but again, just have some patience and remember, safety is first priority. They want to make sure everyone's safe, and it's still a serious situation. It's very dangerous, and the fear is a localized collapse.
They are. I talked to the MTA. They said the trains are running.
So bottom line, if you're trying to commute home tonight, be patient. If you've got to be on the bus or take the subways, because they are running smoothly.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it.
Great. Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
And
I mean, it is a really fluid situation. It is a really fluid situation when it comes to so many of the details and so many layers to this story in terms of evacuations, transit, getting people home, people back to work, schools in the area as well. And a lot of schools are out for summer, but there was that one school that had to be evacuated with 400 kids. Summer school is a thing.
And also the daycare center that's right here. We spoke with the owner of the daycare who had 125 children. Now, he said that there was at some point, they thought they might have to be evacuated, but they did not. They are, however, in the frozen zone. They were notifying parents early on in the day to come and get their children. And those are real little kids that they had to keep calm and, make sure they felt safe.
Yeah, I mean, this is totally unprecedented. I mean, we've covered a lot here in New York City. Obviously, we've been through a lot of tragedies as well, and this day could have gone a lot differently. And it also could have happened on a day where yesterday was raining and deluge of rain, and last week there was a tremendous heat wave. But this is certainly an unprecedented moment when you kind of look up 2nd Avenue right here and you just see a frozen zone.
And to your point, things could have been a lot worse, but every construction worker has been accounted for. There were no injuries reported, either in the building or on the ground, so that is definitely a positive sign to all.
Out of the building safely and then get us back on the air to bring everybody the information that they so desperately need.
Yeah, let's check in right now with our Henry Rossoff. Henry's about a block and a half north of us. He's closer to the Pfizer building, and Henry, I understand, has brand new information for us. Henry. Yeah, that's definitely welcoming news, Henry, and we thank you so much for getting on air and telling us that's breaking information. Things are definitely moving in the right direction, but as with anything, when it comes to the Department of Buildings and the FDNY, they're doing it very methodically.
Yeah, and they don't want to, obviously you don't want to let all these people back in, and God forbid something happen, and you have them once again tell people to get out and evacuate once again. But that is certainly an update from City Hall. I've been pressing them on this for the last couple hours of what exactly they were hoping to do to repopulate some of these buildings tonight. Would be music to a lot of these people's ears who are waiting now outside, very patiently outside this frozen zone, to get back inside their apartments.
Yeah, let's check in right now with our James Ford. James is standing by with what he knows, and he's attended the news conference earlier today.
Yep, we're still waiting, and we're still working on getting James Ford's situation and his shot back up right now. But it's one of those things where City Hall and the mayor came out right away to say that they were on top of the situation, and the Department of Buildings were here. I want to say within the half an hour, the FDNY came to the scene, and they were here with the Department of Buildings, looking at that building from the outside within the half hour of that call coming in.
And they held a news conference shortly after noon, giving the public an update on what's going on. So they've been very transparent. They were here very fast, and our James Ford attended that news conference. Okay, we're back now with continuing coverage of this breaking news story. It's been breaking all day and developing all day. Reports of an unstable building on the corner of 42nd Street and 2nd Avenue. This is the old Pfizer headquarters that they have been renovating into a 1,500-unit residential building. Reports early this morning that there were falling bricks, and then upon further inspection, even more troubling that there were 2 beams that were buckling.
Yeah, and it was a tremendous project, the largest conversion of offices to residential apartments in the country, and all of this taking place in the early morning hours of the 8 o'clock hour, right at really kind of the height of rush hours, a packed area that had to be evacuated here. And you know, the big update that we just got right now, because a lot of folks who were evacuated from this area, about almost 10 buildings that were evacuated, came from City Hall a short time ago. I've been pressing them for information, and excuse me while I pull it up here. They said the Department of Buildings and the FDNY going building by building, Shirley, continuing to assess the surrounding area to determine any potential changes to street closures and whether buildings that had been evacuated can be repopulated. So they are going on foot now, building by building, to see if they can get some of these folks back inside their homes. You know, the good news here is they haven't seen movement in terms of the main old Pfizer headquarters in a couple of hours.
Yeah, that's a hopeful sign for all the people who live in these evacuated buildings and who are coming home right now and may not be able to get into their building. There was a big question mark as to where they would spend the night, and hopefully they can get back into those buildings. But as you mentioned, the technology used by the Department of Buildings and the FDNY, just incredible. They've been able to use these drones without sending anyone inside the building to put them in further harm's way. They've been able to send in drones, and the drones, as you mentioned, was able to track that moved a fraction of an inch first this morning, but also contrastingly, for the last couple hours, it hasn't shifted. So that's all good news.
Yeah, amazing technology they are using. A city of buildings, of course. It's no surprise that they have the best technology. Henry Rossoff has been on this story since early this morning as well.
Okay, Henry, thank you for that update. Really, again, important information and things moving in the right direction. The fact that they have brought in those crews to start shoring things up, I mean, that's all good news we've been waiting for. We were very much in a holding pattern for so many hours this afternoon, and things right now, finally some movement.
Yeah, that is actually an amazing shot to see them on that truck kind of moving up and down the street right now as they continue their door-to-door kind of look at some of these buildings to figure out if they can repopulate them. And that is a lot of people anxiously waiting to get back home, and our Eileen Palmer has been talking to some of them as they are now kind of to show ID to get through a perimeter, so on and so forth. She is continuing our coverage now on 40th Street here on the east side. Hi, Eileen.
It also stretches to 43rd Street, so it also abuts 43rd Street, one street over. I mean, it's just a massive undertaking.
And you guys were also talking about the buildings that were evacuated nearby, 8 buildings in total if you include that one. And yes, it's people who are going to be trying to get back into their homes tonight. You also have tourists who are staying in hotels that are impacted by this, especially with the World Cup being at New York, New Jersey Stadium over there. We've seen a lot of the soccer fans staying at hotels right near this area, and this area is actually closed down during the World Cup when those games are
Okay, we continue now with our continuous coverage here. It's been breaking news all afternoon and now well into the evening. This started at 8 o'clock, so we are now going on 10 hours at this point that we've been staying on top of this. A struggle to be on the fly, kicked out of our own building. It had to be evacuated for our own safety. And we're out here and we have a dose of them for setting this up because we've been doing this newscast right out here on the street of 2nd Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where the alarms went off to get out of the building and everything had to happen pretty quickly. It was orderly, but it had to happen very quickly. And, you know, our crew guys, right, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong here, has to go quickly grab the equipment, the bare minimum of what they were allowed to kind of grab, much like a resident in a building trying to get what they could of their apartment to get the gear out of the building. Not that we want to be part of the story, but we still have to bring you the story. And so it's trying to get all of those elements quickly as to how we can get on the air and be here throughout the day. You know, I said earlier that it was a bare bones operation, but I think we pulled it off pretty well in the moments that we had to get out of that building safely.
Yeah, to your point, we literally had to grab what we could because we do have a garage underneath the building. That's where our news trucks are. That's where a lot of our gear is held. And so whatever we had, this is what we've been working with throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, like we said, an eerie shot, though, to kind of look up 2nd Avenue here and see nothing there. And
it reminds me of COVID.
You did bring up COVID, and it really does. I lived on 46th Street during COVID, and that was an eerie sight to every day, kind of seeing no cars on the road. And that is the frozen zone that we are in. We're starting to feel, though, the rain come down. And, we were talking about whether or not
on that note, I think we're going to try to get meteorologist Chris Cimino up. If we can check in with Chris to get a check on the forecast for us. All right, Chris Cimino, a technological marvel that he's able to do weather like this. Thank you so much,
truly
Chris.
Amazing. Chris, if you want to come out here, though, feel free. Venture on down. And I like the glasses. Good to see you, Chris, as always. Okay, I don't get to work with Chris a lot, so it is great to see him giving us the forecast. And it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a rainy day all around.
Like it was over the weekend.
Yeah. And so that is kind of the situation that we're seeing play out here. Hopefully the rain, as Chris was talking about, a few showers, and it's not like too bad because a lot of folks, I'm still watching them. I don't know if these are just people who are trying to get a bird's eye view of the building and kind of look, or if they're actually just waiting to hopefully get good news that they can go back home.
It's probably a mix of both. We got some looky loos, people trying to get back into their buildings. But again, the people you're really going to have to feel for are the ones who are in the evacuated buildings and they can't get back in. But stay with us. We are going to take a short break. We'll be back after this break. Okay, we're back now with the PIX11 news at 6, although Dan Manarino, the morning anchor, has been here for quite a few hours. It has just been an eventful day here.
Yeah, I think as we kind of wrapping up this coverage that we've been on the air for almost 10 hours here, I think the most important information to get everybody is that while the evacuations are still happening and underway, no more buildings are being evacuated, but everybody who has been evacuated now waiting to see if they can get back in. The Department of Buildings now going building to building, and the city is starting to go back in and see if they can repopulate some of those buildings. So hopefully,
like fly by the seat of our pants, come out here and put on a newscast in the middle of the street.
And it was great to be here alongside you tonight, Shirley. I know you're picking up the coverage at the 10 o'clock as well. And I'll be back tomorrow morning.
Hopefully you get some sleep.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us with the PIX11 news at 6. We'll see you back here tonight for the news at 10. Have a good evening, everyone.